if we're going to do spring position previews, we might as well have some spring position reviews on the podcast daily. That's Bill Landis. I'm Austin Ward. So it's going to be some Tailback Tuesdays in here. We're going to look back at spring camp, share some thoughts, what we saw, what we learned. If there are any concerns, which I don't know that there will be for running back, but we had 5 portions of 5 practices, some complete, 2 of them complete, to evaluate. That's not a complete picture, but it does help inform. So Bill and I are also adding some takes there at ohiostate.rivals.com, but these are going to be certainly more in-depth and a longer conversation. And I think that the running backs, Bill, they're going to be pretty good.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to feel as confident as I do in that, given that their coach left in the middle of spring practice, and also they lost a pretty important player from the room. But I think they're in decent shape now. As we're talking about this, they haven't added anyone via the transfer portal. Doesn't really seem like they're particularly interested in adding anyone via the transfer portal. So we'll see how that goes. I don't think it would be unreasonable to do so, but I also understand the point of not doing it because, as Ryan Day said, they want 5 and they feel like they have 5 with TC Caffey factored in there. But the top 2, I think, are as good as anyone in college football. And the 2 young guys in there, James Peoples and Sam Williams-Dixon, I thought had a good spring for being on campus for the first time at a time in their lives when they should be in high school. So I feel pretty good about it. And I think part of the reason that Ohio State feels okay about it too is maybe it's not just running backs carrying the ball in this offense too. So we'll see how that kind of develops. But I think that might be a small part of it. But for a room that did lose its coach, it is in rather good shape.
I was thinking that maybe the running backs had the most interesting spring of any position on the roster. Now there is obviously uncertainty that we've talked about for who are going to be the 5 or that last spot that's available on the offensive line, and obviously a quarterback battle. We'll get to all that, but in terms of day 1 to day 15, and then having to replace the position coach, having Ryan Day having to operate a search and be the interim temporary running backs coach for 3 weeks, losing Dallin Hayden before camp is over, that's an unusual journey for spring.
I'd say so. I can't recall one quite like that. Also, somewhat involved in the search to find the replacement for Tony Alford, apparently. So,
and that's not even with getting into the details of the search, which is okay, candidate A, B, C, D, negotiations falling apart, finding other hurdles. That was one of my main takeaways. That it worked out with Carlos Locklyn at the end, I think is a very a major positive for Ohio State. Yeah. I'm incredibly impressed with him and the way he handles his business. He's only been on campus for 3 weeks as of right now, and had the final 3 or 4 practices. The way that worked out for Ohio State, and we said that all along. Even if they miss on some candidates, they're going to have everyone in the country engaged in some form or fashion. Maybe they won't hire DeMarco Murray or Stan Drayton or anybody else.
They'll get them paid, though.
They'll get those people paid because everyone wants to be linked to that search. It is the most coveted position that you could have had if you were a running backs coach in this offseason. So that Carlos Locklyn emerged from that journey, however they got to it, I do think that winds up being an A for Ohio State, and I wouldn't have thought that in real time as it played out.
It felt like it was slipping away from them a little bit, and to the point where I was very much they'll be fine, they'll find somebody, they'll be fine, they'll find somebody. They're gonna find somebody, right? and then they got Carlos Locklyn, who I think is odd that he's an up and comer at his age. No offense, Carlos. Don't come after me with your
be careful
with your giant biceps and your traps. But that guy's just got a lot of juice, and I think he's really highly thought of. So I think it's unfair to him to label him plan A, B, C, whatever. I just think he's a good running backs coach, and that's what you wanted Ohio State to get. So they did it. It was a circuitous route, I suppose, to get there, but they ended up with a good one, I think.
And he's got a good room to manage. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago with Dallin Hayden's decision. You can certainly understand it from his perspective when you have those 2 guys at the top. We thought there was still going to be an opportunity for him to have, 50 to 100 touches. I don't know where
100 is the number I had in my head.
Yeah, where it would wind up. But he was going to be involved in the offense. From that perspective, it's not ideal. You're not hoping to replace that if you're Ohio State after putting 2 years of investment into that kid, but or that man. He was always very mature. I shouldn't diminish him you got to talk as a true freshman during training camp, so that's usually a sign of that maturity. But you also saw James Peoples and Sam Williams-Dixon taking some of these reps and opportunities where that had to be part of the decision-making process for Dallin Hayden. So not a lot of places that are going to spend a ton of time stressing over the third-string running back leaving, even though we knew that there was a role for him and an opportunity for him to play a lot. But
yeah,
you have those other 4 plus maybe T.C. Caffey. That to me, that's plenty, even though we've seen Ohio State have to dip into that depth almost every year that I've covered the team.
Yeah, that's the thing that stays in the back of your mind, and it's a fair worry. The only thing about it, I guess, is like, without being an expert on all the running back rooms across the country, and neither are you, but I think I would feel pretty confident saying that Dallin Hayden probably would have been the best RB3 in college football based on what we've seen from him so far in his career.
If we're assuming that they have that Quinshon, Judkins, and Treveyon Henderson are 2 of the 5. Let's be conservative. 2 of the 5 best running backs in football. Almost by default, you've got to be the best RB3.
Yeah, he would have been an excellent RB3, and we'll see if the other guys can pick up that slack. I tend to think they can, but it's not. And it's no offense to Dallin Hayden. Like he's a guy that I wish would have gotten more opportunity here. I think it's unfortunate that he didn't, and I hope he goes somewhere where he's going to get the ball a lot, because I really do think he's going to be a very talented college back and has a pro future. But it's one of those things where, like, you can be upset that a guy is leaving because, like, you just like the guy and you want to see him do well, while also maybe recognizing in your mind that, like, Ohio State will be okay.
Did you feel like so some of this stuff, like for Quinshon, Judkins, and Treveyon Henderson, they did not need to be hit. They have Quinshon does lead college football for the last 2 years in touches. He was doing that in the SEC level. He does not need to practice full contact to get anything done. Treveyon, the same boat. You also want to manage his health. So we didn't see them do like a bunch of full contact stuff, if any. They were in the thud periods in the spring game. Saw some of that with James Peoples and Sam Williams-Dixon. Like, did you feel like you got to see enough of the running game to form any opinion beyond, like, well, I thought Sam Williams-Dixon did some great things out of the backfield. James Peoples were willing to run between the tackles. Like, I don't know, but that's still not live football.
Yeah, probably not as much as I would hope. Like, you can watch Quinshon Judkins play at Ole Miss, right, and look at the statistical production and know that he's a good back. It's another thing to, like, watch him with your own 2 eyeballs in person. And I think we saw enough to, like we get it. Like, this guy's really good, right? He had a play in the Student Appreciation Day practice where he, like, tiptoed down the sideline and I think probably would have scored if it was a real game and the officials were paying attention to it. I thought he had an opportunity to take one to the house in the spring game. I thought Treveyon had an opportunity to take one to the house in the spring game. If those guys were live tackle, I think they would have ran through a lot of stuff and made some pretty exciting plays in that game. And you have to project there, but that's kind of all you can do in those situations. So, like, I thought they both looked the part. It was more about the young player, like Sam Williams-Dixon's versatility and burst. Is interesting to me, and James Peoples' vision, and he's got pretty good contact balance too. Like that's interesting to me. Like, and because those are things that you can probably teach contact balance a little bit, but even that I think is sort of innate. And vision, I think, certainly is. So, like, if you're showing even a little bit of that as a young running back on your first few months on campus, like, that is noteworthy to me. And I thought he showed that. And then, like, TC Caffey is like a walk-on plus in my mind, right? Like I think a scholarship level player at a lot of programs, and maybe will be one at Ohio State one day. So, like, spring is typically not the best time to try to, like, evaluate running backs or make sweeping judgments or pretend like you have the whole picture. But I did feel like I saw enough of a snapshot to make me feel pretty good about all 5 of those guys.
Do you think we're going to see the T formation to start every game, just so that Ohio State never has to designate a starter between Quinshon and Treveyon?
Oh, that's smart. I didn't think of that, but that'd be a pretty crafty way to get around it. Yeah, why not? You don't have to be T formation. You can just open up with split backs.
Okay.
Every week. Oh. UCLA did a lot of, I don't want to say a lot, enough 2-back stuff that, like, I took notice of it when I was trying to watch what Chip Kelly was doing. And I know he said they did the T formation, 21 times last year. So I don't know if they'll open the game in the T formation, but I think they'll certainly use it. But
There it is every week.
Yeah, that to me, like, that was cool to see, and like it was nice of Chip to pander to the Ohio State fans. We love that.
I think he was pandering to you.
He might have been pandering to me as well. Pandering to everybody just loves to run the rock, even in a spring game. But it was also encouraging to me that like they're open to the idea of playing more than one running back at one time, which I think it's a delicate balance, right? Because you don't want to overexpose anybody, I suppose, but you also want to be able to take two of the best 5 running backs in the country, put them on the field at the same time, and say deal with it to the defense. So I hope that they embrace that a little bit.
Carlos Locklyn didn't really get the full Ohio State media experience in that press conference, which was, what are you going to do with these two guys?
Yeah, that'll come in August, I guess.
He'll get that opportunity. Maybe next month.
Or maybe in May. Yeah, we typically do like a May powwow with the assistant coaches. Yeah, so he'll get his first boy, Carlos, your room is really good. How are you going to divvy up all these touches to all these guys?
Now you have too many.
Yeah. I'm excited to hear how he answers that question. I wonder if he has a crystal ball. You think he has a crystal ball?
I'll text him and tell him, hey, this is the standard response here. If you want to steal it, it's yours.
Yeah. So no, he did not get the full media experience, because when you're in that room sitting at the podium, it's a little. I would imagine it's not quite as overwhelming as like sitting at a table while 50 people just surround you in a half circle. Like, so he'll get that.
Yeah, he'll get there. That stuff will be new for him, even though he's been at Oregon the last 2 years. That media contingent is not the same. Nothing is the same as Ohio State, period. But I think that's going to be fascinating. We were all, I'll speak for you and me and Berm, we were all blown away by that introductory press conference. And I think that Quinshon, Treveyon, that room, they've responded very positively to him. He's got a great reputation for relationship building and connecting with people, even well before he got into the profession in the last few years. But that stuff's going to be new, and I wonder if he'll, by the end, like Tony Alford was very much fatigued by the scrutiny on that position group and asking about how you're going to rotate the running backs.
Yeah.
I'm not bringing that up as a concern, more of a curiosity, as you said. How's he going to handle that? How do you describe that to the media, which is obviously going to be maybe different than what you say in the actual position room and with the guys, but maybe not. I mean, maybe he's such a straight shooter that, like, well, if one guy is playing better, he's going to be the starter that week, and I have no problem changing the depth chart every week. I don't know what he's going to say about that. That's fascinating to me.
Yeah, I don't mean this to come off to say that necessarily Tony Alford was evasive, but I think you, as a coach, like, you try to be careful with that because you don't want to say the wrong thing to like make somebody feel some type of way. I don't know if Carlos Locklyn cares about that.
I don't think he does. That's my initial.
Maybe he'll come to care more. But not to say he doesn't care about it. Like, he cares about his players, obviously. But, like, just going to speak his mind, right? That seems to me the kind of guy he is, both in person and on the internet, apparently. He seems a little more online than Tony Alford with his Twitter activity.
You like that?
I just like someone. If that's who he is, I just like someone being themselves. So,
right.
He's definitely got a big old chip on his shoulder. But again, I think that's probably what makes him who he is and will make him a good coach here. So I'm okay with it.
I thought we would be doing like biggest surprises and superlatives for all these position reviews, and maybe we will, but it seemed so obvious for running backs that the surprise was what they had to go through.
Yeah.
Losing Tony Alford and, even just seeing Quinshon, Judkins. Like, this position group feels, which is crazy to say, like it's pretty straightforward, even though they had like the strangest 6 or 7 weeks that you could have. We don't have to dive into that. We did it in real time.
No, it was a huge surprise, but honestly, like I don't know the right word for a superlative. Like most have your crap together room. It's just like they didn't seem to faze them. They just like kind of went about their business and figured it out. And got the work and they needed to get, even without having a coach for like 3 weeks. So I think that's a credit to them too.
Do you think Ryan Day will take credit for that, or
he should? Why not? I was just worried that like the reason that Chip Kelly tells people why he's now here is because he got to coach quarterbacks at a weird time at UCLA. So he was like, I don't want to be a head coach anymore. I just want to coach quarterbacks. So I thought Ryan Day was going to like end spring ball, like, I'm the running backs coach now. We got to figure out who the new head coach is.
I saw somebody mention, like, I thought Chip Kelly said that he coached the running backs in the lead up to that bowl game. Like, I saw the anecdote.
It was the QBs.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
It's
because their quarterbacks coach left to go to Oregon State right before their bowl game.
All right.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Well, I'm losing my mind.
Well, we all are.
We
talk a lot every day.
That was 2.5 months ago. I can't be expected to remember that. get all the details right.
Yeah.
What's the fun in that? All right. So it is the most have your crap together room. Like, I don't have any concerns about it. The only thing that we could have talked about there was scholarship numbers, but it feels like more likely than not, TC Caffey addresses that for Ohio State. There are probably options that they could find in the transfer portal if they really wanted to. It does not seem to me like that's really what they would want to do.
No, it would have to be like a pretty specific situation, I think, right? Because you are asking someone to come be like your third running back. And maybe there's an experienced guy out there who'd be okay with that, who'd be okay with coming to chase a national championship, really, no matter what that workload looked like. But I don't know who that could be at the moment. I know we talked about the guy from UMass before, right? But then that seems like it's kind of lost a little bit of traction too. So I'm not anticipating them adding somebody, but it's also probably a foolish thing to say in this era of college football.
Well, yeah. I mean, I always want to be more careful about that than I ever was before. It's like, well, the portal window is still open for 8 more days. Like, literally anything can happen. Like, what do you think's gonna happen? I don't know.
And you can add guys after the portal.
Yeah, once
it's just a deadline to enter the portal.
So who knows what that will look like over the months ahead? But at the top, like Quinshon and Treveyon is the envy of college football.
It's really good. I don't know. Like I've been trying to like keep an eye on like what's happening around the country as like teams are playing their spring games and like who feels really good about their running back situations. And there are plenty that have good rooms, but man, nothing quite like what Ohio State has going on.
So that's review number 1 of spring, where we really unearthed some hot takes here.
We did. The running backs are good.
So if you were expecting more than that, hey, we tried to get there, but that's just seems pretty clear. That room, and it could have gone a different way. I mean, they could have still been looking for a coach right now. The situation lined up.
Could you imagine?
I mean, it could have been. Ryan Day kept saying, it's like, hey, we don't feel like there's got to be a coach by the end of spring. It's not a recruiting period yet. Yeah. Like, we're not in a hurry. Well, I'm not sure how true that was based on the conversations with everybody else in the preceding weeks, where it was like one candidate, then the next candidate. But, hey, no rush. We're good.
Thank God they have one. Yeah. I wouldn't be able to handle them not having one right now.
No, that's too much. Let's relax for a little bit and just think about what we saw during spring camp, which is what we're going to do now. Spread it out over the next coming weeks. You know how that works for us on the podcast daily. So look forward to that. Or if you don't want to, I'm sorry. And thank you. Bill wants me to sign off that way all the time now when the topics maybe aren't the sexiest or we don't have the hottest takes.
This is good. This is good running back talk.
I love it. All right. Thanks for joining us on the Podcast Daily Tailback Tuesday. Spring reviews coming your way. He's Bill Landis. I'm Austin Ward. We'll see you.